it has that Odyssey effect where it's like going from story to story or island to island or analogy to analogy, metaphor to metaphor. So it's I really enjoyed that, and it does leave him a lot of room to be very poetic and artistic. It doesn't have to really be locked into reality, especially the deeper you go into it, the more you have characters say things like, they're dropping LSD and they're just, you see them losing themselves even if they're not on drugs, just because of the violence that they're either enacting or seeing or whatever it is. So your brain actually, that slow pacing and the way that it kind of evolves, like how it leaves reality more and more as you go deeper into the film, that pacing helps it. And the episodic nature of it, I think, makes it a little easier for you to latch on to those more like dreamlike sequences, or I guess nightmarish sequences, really.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was why using Conrad as a framework, I think, is like just such a stroke of atmospheric genius for the film. Like,
is it like that in the book? Did you say you read the book? Or
yeah, I read the book in college. It's not like, there are episodes to it, but it's also just a very, very simple story, if that makes, like, it's very, it's like the guy does just go on a riverboat and he ends up stopping at a couple different places, and he learns more about this subject, this guy that he's going to pick up, this Kurt's character, as he gets closer and closer, and he eventually finds him, and eventually, he learns the history of the relationship kind of between white civilization and the native savages, essentially. I'm using air quotes here, because this story does have, it has a kind of colonial perspective that's a little bit icky and a little bit troubling, which is something that makes it very interesting for the movie and gives it this very simple narrative quest that they can then expand on, and that's where he uses it to expressively kind of evolve the movie and building it and turning it into these bursts of avant-garde montage that are psychologically reckoning with the character experience or the degradation or of especially of Martin Sheen's character and his performance, which I will say is just one of the sweatiest performances you've ever seen in a movie. And like, I love that in the beginning he's already showing signs of like being like a primal animal and like unstable even within like the civilized world. When we first meet him, he's like drunkenly bleeding in his hotel room awaiting a mission. He's like smoking, he's got his gun in his bed, he's like, I can't wait
doing
to go
karate
back to the jungle, and he has like this depressed like addiction to the war, having carried out these secret like CIA assassinations they imply. He's going crazy in his motel room, screaming and dancing in his underwear, breaking his mirror. And if you watch Heart of Darkness, you can actually see the raw take of this, which is a fully method acted scene where Martin Sheen basically just got super drunk and went nuts and actually like hurt himself and cut himself and like rubbed blood on his face. And it's and he basically mentions that he was like, this was like my 36th birthday and I was just like an insane alcoholic, and I just kind of exercised that out of me on screen, and Coppola gave me that opportunity. But yeah, it's honestly just horrifically sad and scary to watch the state of mind this guy is in, and he starts at this register.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is the introduction to this character. It's kind of unbelievable. And yeah, I guess even Sheen was kind of hesitant to get into the role initially, just because he knew he was unhealthy. So the fact that, I mean, I don't know if it was, Sheen just decided to do it and then it ended up accidentally working, or if Coppola even convinced him that would work with the character. I'm unsure. It really does show like it's such a vulnerable moment, and
I could very easily see Coppola being like, you are the character, something that's like real to you. And he's like, well, I'm a fucking drunk, so I'm yeah.
And there is a moment in Hearts of Darkness where it's the same, I think it's the same shot that they use in the film. It's just that in the film they actually, I think they strip the audio and they make it more of like there's fading ins of memories and things like that, and the score is happening, or maybe the end is still playing.
The end is playing still,
but in the Hearts of Darkness you actually do hear Coppola yelling at him, and I can't remember
think
what he's
about
saying,
your wife or something like that, or
saying, like yelling motivations basically to kind of keep it going. And now I have also heard that he was concerned at the point, but Sheen just insisted that he was going to do it this way. So Coppola, I imagine, just went, all right, well, I'm going to use what I have here, and that is a drunk Martin Sheen. So let's see what.
Yeah, they did try to bring up, I think, in the documentary that Martin Sheen was the one who was insisting on keeping shooting through the injury where he cut himself on the mirror and started rubbing blood on his face, because Coppola was like, am I like a horrible person for letting this go? Like, should I be getting a doctor? Can
I put this in the movie? Yeah, exactly. Like, are there rules against this? It feels like it might be crossing a line, but Sheen was just dedicated to it, and he did.
But it's powerful to watch on screen. Like, it's palpable, the suffering that this guy is going through, and how badly he is craving this mission, because he's like, I'm so empty. Like, when I am home, all I'm thinking about is the jungle, and we're in the headspace of he needs to get back to that jungle.
And him being as lost as he is, he finds this mission to assassinate Kurtz, and that scene's great too. But even him, and we'll get to this in more detail, but the fascination that he ends up getting with Kurtz, and him diving more into his files and who he is, he's kind of like, he starts almost admiring the man a little bit, and that, I think, also locks into his emptiness as a character, and just kind of looking for any idea to fill him in some capacity.
There's an obsessive fascination. I think he sees himself in him a little bit, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And so
even though he doesn't see himself as the end result, and I think that's the confusion the character goes through, is like, he's told who Kurtz is by these military men, and that is a good scene when you're talking about where they were like, they gave him his mission. And I love the narration too. I wanted a mission, and for my sins they gave me one.